Okay, so this is homework help for Unit 4, Objective 1, which is 6.1 in the Pearson book. So I'm on page 426, and this is question number 2. So for this one here, they ask us to find all the real square roots of each number. So that means I have to do both the plus and the minus version of that. So there's not a square root over this, so that means there's two different values that would multiply by itself to give me 64 over 169. So I know 8 times 8 is 64, and 13 times 13 is 169. And so that means 8 over 13 is the principal root because it's positive, and then negative 8 over 13 is also a real square root. And the reason that is because if I were to square 8 over 13, I would get 64 over 169. And then even if it were negative when I square it, it would also be positive. Okay. And then question number 7, find the real root. So this requires us to remember from our science days and elementary school days our place value. So this is the tenths and this is the hundredths. So this is the same thing as 25 over 100. So the square root of 25 over 100, because this is 2 decimal places, so over 100. So when I look at trying to find each real root, so this has a square root, I'm only looking for the principal root, so only the positive value. So I can either reduce this fraction first or just take the square roots. So the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 100 is 10. And then if I divide by 5, 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that would turn into positive 1/2. Again, I could have reduced it first and then rooted, or root and then reduce, either way. And then let's take a look at number 14. So for question number 14, I want to find all the real square roots. So because they're saying real, then this would have to be no solution, because there's no real number that when I multiply by itself will give me negative 64. So that would be imaginary, but we're only looking for real roots. Okay. And then let's take a look at number 16. So for question number 16, these are both even powers, so I don't need to split it apart. So when I reduce this, I would do 8 divided by 2, which is 4, right? We always want to take half of the exponent. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9, so that would be b to the 9. And then that would be my answer. No square root involved. So 8 divided by 2, 18 divided by 2. And then for number 21. So 23 is like the other one. You just need to remember this should be 25 over 100. So we're trying to think of two numbers, and that when I square it, I would get 100. And I know that if I take 10 times 10, that gives me 100. And then also negative 10 times negative 10 would give me 100 as well. So the two real solutions are 10 and negative 10. And for this one, I would just rewrite it as 25 over 100, and that would give me a problem similar to the one that I just did. And then let's take a look at the worksheet questions, and I'm going to do that just up top here. So let's take a look at question number 7. So this is 7 from the worksheet. So for this one right here, I have an odd power, so that would be x to the 3rd. So because this is odd, that means my x value has to be positive, right? So x has to be positive. So I know it has to be greater than 0, because if it was negative, I can't square root a negative number, and raising it to a third power does not make it positive, we'll keep it negative. So I want to go ahead and break up my terms here. So I know 32 does not have a perfect square, but I do know that 16 multiplies into 32, which is a perfect square. I have an odd power, so I want to break it up. I want to take 1 off to make it even. And then 12 is even, so I don't need to do anything with it. So all I do is break this up into squares. So 32 is 16 times 2. X to the third, take 1 off, so that gives me squared n to the first, and 12 is even. So I do not know the square roots of 2 or x, so that will end up staying in the radical. So I know inside I'll have 2 and x to the first. I don't have to have the 1. And then from here, I know the roots of everything else. So the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of x squared, so I want to take half of 2, so half of 2 is 1. And I want to take half of 12, which is 6, so that would be to the 6. So divide the powers by 2, but actually square root 16. So that should be a 4, not an 8. So the square root of 16 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So now this does not get absolute values because I already know that x had to be positive because it started out as an odd power. And so then that would be my answer.